Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the Fantastic Four First Steps. 4K, baby. So, I actually really enjoyed this one. And I could see how people could have a kind of harder time with it, because it takes a while to get to the kind of superhero kind of action that goes on. However, the Fantastic Four is a little bit kind of weirder to kind of handle, because you kind of want him to do the kind of exploration kind of shit, you want him to do some science kind of shit, and this was like reading a Fantastic Four comic, and actually kind of one of the newer ones, except that Johnny doesn't have the handlebar mustache kind of thing going on. But I really enjoyed this and think this did a very good job of centering the Fantastic Four, understanding them, and delivering that. Now, if you're into that or not, that's pretty much down to you, and because this is a different kind of one. There we see more of the family dynamic in here, which works out very well. The cast really hits on each kind of character. Johnny being the kind of hothead doing his own kind of thing, Ben kind of being the kind of heart and kind of grounded kind of rock, and then of course Sue and Reed dealing with the expansion of the family as well, and Reed trying to science this kind of stuff and trying to figure out everything kind of going on throughout the movie, and Sue trying to do that as well, but still having the kind of emotional maturity to kind of like handle emotions in regards to that as well, whereas Reed just tries to go as logical as possible, which leads of course to some friction with them. So we actually start off and we are shown that this is Earth 828. We get the whole thing that kind of links up with Jack Kirby, which is very nice. And we see that Reed's trying to find iodine while Sue is taking a pregnancy test and finds out that she's pregnant. And they're like, holy crap, they've been trying for 2 years and nothing was happening. So they were kind of just all right with it. But then it's like, oh God. We also get the Herbie kind of popping up as well as they utilize him. And I really like his inclusion, especially when we get later on into the movie, him being utilized on the away mission that they're going on, him trying to protect Franklin as well, which was kind of awesome. He's just a cool kind of little robot, and I think they effectively utilized him here. He could have been pretty much an annoying fucking, oh God, instead of having what I've considered more of a kind of Grogu kind of role in here, where it's like, okay, cool, he's a cute little robot and doing some kick-ass kind of shit, we could have had a Jar Jar Binks scenario where it would just be like, oh God, he's annoying me every time he's on screen. I didn't feel that. Now, if you felt that, I can get that. I can understand where you're like, I don't want this fucking shit. But I think they handled it pretty well here. Them doing this whole kind of Sunday night dinner kind of thing, which is really nice that they get together for that. Johnny ruining his appetite by eating cereal and everything like that. But then, of course, Ben says that they're late, and Sue's like, oh shit. And then Ben's able to hit it like that. Johnny's like, what the fuck's kind of going on? Of course, Ben's like, you're pregnant, right? And he's like, yeah. And of course, we then start seeing that they're doing this whole kind of anniversary. It's the 4-year anniversary, which gives us a condensed origin story of what's going on here. I like how this worked out. This gives us, we're in a 60s kind of inspired world. We're in like a 1964 kind of region. We then, of course, like pop up like later on. But we see them getting together. We see them before the cosmic rays and everything. Their ship named Excelsior, of course, the Stan Lee's kind of catchphrase thing. And we see them kind of working together. I like how it's done. They really fit the period of like the 1960s here. Like what they were able to do with Captain America the First Avenger, setting it in the 1940s. So if you're not into the 60s inspired, but also the kind of tech that the Fantastic Four is able to inspire, I get it. But I liked what they had with this, like, oh shit, 60s, but a little bit different with that kind of shit. So we see that kind of like popping off and giving us the kind of condensed of how it's kind of going on. We see the Future Foundation kind of popped up as well. It is not in the same kind of one that we've seen in the comics. This kind of working with the United Nations. We get, of course, a look at Latveria as well. However, mainly in regards to a representative, but we don't see that representative there. And that's a later on kind of thing that we'll see. Of course, Doctor Doom. Blah. But we see that they have dealt with all of these different kind of villains and showcasing off them using their powers and everything. Seeing, of course, Mr. Fantastic with his stretching, Johnny with his flames, the Thing going the Thing, and of course Sue utilizing her invisibility powers. We also get Mole Man, Harvey. He tried to steal a kind of building, but the Fantastic Four was able to kind of work against that, and then also get him involved, kind of turning him from villain to reluctant kind of frenemy ally kind of thing, which also works throughout this movie. I really kind of like that. This kind of works into a realm where Sue's more the one that kind of handles him, which I thought was an intriguing aspect. I thought that if they had changed this up a little bit to maybe this world's version of Namor, might have been another thing, because of course Sue and Namor have history on things like that. But we see that they're just doing. We get the condensed kind of whole thing, setting up that they've got supervillains and everything in play and effect, but that those aren't the ones that we're going to be dealing around here with. We then get the whole kind of buck out that the Silver Surfer kind of pops up and of course says that they're the Herald, that Galactus has chosen this planet, and that you should choose your time wisely. This, of course, we see Sue getting to an advanced stage of pregnancy, and they're like, what the fuck are we going to do here? Because we've also seen that they've heard they've been getting recordings from space. This kind of lines up with Johnny's kind of thing, which I think is really awesome and well handled, because normally you've got Reed doing the heavy lifting, but I think that the best kind of Fantastic Four stories let all of the characters have their own kind of moments to shine. We've got Sue that gets a good amount of moments, Reed as well, but we got Ben, and Johnny is not stupid. We have him have his own kind of work that helps into what's going on to solve this whole kind of mystery and conundrum. And of course, we also see Reed and Sue freaking out about the baby, trying to figure out if they have powers. An interesting kind of moment is Reed keeps scanning the baby, and Sue's like, listen, I'm just going to do this, and you can look at the kid. And he's like, that's a bullshit way to win an argument. Which is a little bit more, normally Reed doesn't curse that much. I don't mind it. One kind of funny bit later on is when everything's kind of going to shit, and Sue just pops up as the Thing and Johnny are kind of talking. She's like, you chicken shits. I was like, what the fuck? It feels more like Sue or Ben or Johnny would go that rather than Reed, but I don't really have that much of a problem with it. It's like, okay, cool. I mean, I like how Pedro Pascal is playing Reed. It's really interesting that most of the roles I've seen him in, he's playing a dad, but seeing him kind of trying to figure out what's going on with this, and they get this whole spiel of Galactus. They're able to find out that the Silver Surfer has gone to all these different worlds, and they're all gone now. So they're pretty much deciding to kind of figure out where and triangulate where her energy has been, and pretty much do a faster than light kind of engine utilizing the ship. They get it up, and they decide to go into space. Yes, while Sue is pregnant. So they kind of blast through it. We see them kind of working together and understanding how to work out through the ship, and they get there, and it's like, what the hell? And then it kind of blasts out. And the thing is, we actually really do get Galactus, this Galactus, because we had the Fox's Fantastic Four, but that was just a giant kind of space cloud. Now, the thing is, Galactus is pretty much an elemental force of the universe. We kind of get this kind of explained here, and there's actually a little bit of a deeper explanation of what gets into the core conflict and what's going on here. But he appears to us pretty much as a giant dude with purple and shit. And you're like, what the fuck? Kind of shit. But we see that it's because that's how our mind can comprehend him. So we see pretty much his thing blast out of the planet. They had to do all this kind of dodging, leaving the FTL kind of ring, similar to Star Wars, behind, as they then kind of get in there, and then the Silver Surfers are like, I don't know what the fuck you doing here, but Big G gonna see you now. As I'm paraphrasing it. She's blasting through the kind of stuff, and we see Johnny trying to play off on it, because Johnny had tried to follow her on Earth, and she said something to him, and then pretty much kicked him off, trying to figure out if the surfboard's also part of her body or whatnot. Herbie, of course, is now sent to figure out shit, collect samples, scan shit as they're kind of going off into there. Johnny is able to ask her what she said to him and figure it out. It's like, let's see here. Like, pretty much a blessing kind of thing to, like, die peacefully or whatnot. And that kind of helps out because we had seen that these suits had been built because Johnny kind of wanted new suits built. Reed decided to build them. That expedite that because of this is like, oh, cool. I'm pretty much telling Johnny, watch out, you've got finite air. If you're in space, you can do your flame on, but it's going to take your oxygen, man. And that kind of is part of what he's using his wristwatch thing for as things are kind of going on. But they get to Galactus. Yes, I gotta also hit those things. And pretty much learned that he has an insatiable hunger and he must devour planets. But then he pretty much zeroes in on Franklin, their unborn child. And pretty much like, hey, I'll leave Earth alone if you give me the kid. He can tame my hunger, satisfy me. Even though he's talking about him being the successor to the throne. Now see, this is important because it kind of... He was like one of the last survivors of his planet or whatnot. They kind of say it a little bit differently here. In the comics lore, there are certain cosmos for even the universe of the MCU that even goes beyond the kind of multiverse thing. Like, there's the multiverse, but, like, everything's put into the cosmos. So think about it like, okay, you've got galaxies and everything framing up the universe. You've got the multiverse that's kind of working into that effect, and then you've got the kind of cosmos going around there. Galactus was the last survivor of a previous incarnation of the cosmos that then died, and then he transitioned here, and is pretty much kind of like an elemental force of kind of like an apex predator on a scale of like going around. Kind of similar on the whole kind of Celestials. He goes to planets, in the comics at least, that have life force and that have a certain kind of thing, and then he devours them of that kind of energy, and we see him kind of like linked up with that kind of stuff. Franklin is supposed to be that last person of our cosmos in like the Marvel comics and everything, and that's what is being pretty much put up here. His successor being the next kind of Galactus in the next kind of universe. Franklin has a lot of kind of crazy powers, and we see a little bit of that here. But the thing is, he's pretty much induced labor into Sue. We get them kind of running out of the ship and everything, trying to fight this Silver Surfer off. They get into the ship, and they kind of blast off in the FTO, but the Silver Surfer is still able to kind of follow them. Johnny's trying to shoot them off while Sue's pretty much trying to give it birth in like zero gravity, which is nuts. And she's like, fuck, you strapping me down and shit like that. And they're trying to figure out all this kind of stuff, so they decide to pretty much go to a neutron star, which is essentially like a black hole, and try and shake her off that way by pretty much getting her across the event horizon, so she'd pretty much be stuck like a month in there in the time dilation kind of effect. But the thing is, Galactus was like, give me the kid, and I'll spare Earth. And they're like, fuck that shit. I almost heard Cap being like, we don't trade lives, asshole! And it's just like, yeah, fuck that noise. Of course, they give birth to the baby. Everything's okay. Herbie's helping out and everything. It's kind of cool. And they get back to Earth, and Reed's like, fuck, what do we do? Like, this is a big level problem. I mean, it's really kind of good that we have seen that they've had problems that they've been able to hit on in the past. I was interested if we were going to get the nullifier in this, but we did not. That was pretty much just like, yeah, it's essentially in the comics like Reed's like, oh, this will fucking annihilate you, Galactus. Eat shit. And it's like, all right, be cool, motherfucker, be cool. And then backs off. This, we're getting other kind of effects as they're trying to, and they're like, hey, because these are the premier heroes. They're like, how'd you defeat Galactus? We didn't. What's kind of going on here? Of course, they tell everything, the truth, of like, and of course, they're like, we aren't going to sacrifice a kid for that. And I'm like, I almost was like, listen, you're correct, But you need to argue this kind of effectively because everybody's like, rah, 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 and pissed off at the Fantastic Four. It's like, I get that. But when does it stop? I mean, you give Galactus one kid. Okay, but what if he comes back for more? And then eventually just devours your planet anyway because you just keep sacrificing kids to the motherfucker. You always have to understand what the cost is. Because a lot of people are like, oh, they're just going to eat the planet. Like, fuck it, throw a kid at it. It's like, alright, but does that fix the problem? Or are you going to go out and be like, you know what, you purple motherfucker, I'm going to crack your asshole open. And you going to crack my planet, I'm going to crack your asshole kind of shit. It's like, so, you don't have to go complete dick mode, but sometimes you got to fight a motherfucker. Especially when it's like, I will eat that kid. And I should probably be okay. It's like, you've eaten planets. Sure. This is like untold, unlimited power. What if that fucking kills you or unbalances the universe or something? So we get them kind of getting screwed over by that in the public sentiment, and I do like that that's kind of put into there because it's interesting to see how the Fantastic Four deals with that. See them mainly staying to the Baxter Building and all that as Reed is attempting to figure out the problem, like the Archimedes lever. And trying to kind of bring that into kind of effect. So Johnny then also gets sucked up into trying to figure out what's kind of going on. Figures out that the Silver Surfer offered herself up as the Herald to save her planet. And everything kind of going on with that. And it's like, okay, that's important because he's able to like hit her with that towards the climax of the movie. So Reed's trying to figure all this stuff out. He is being kind of dickish, but without intentionally trying to be so to Sue, being like, it's a logical, rational decision to sacrifice a child to save everybody else. Needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. However, that depends upon what that action then sets up in the future. It's like, okay, you have now decided that you got a base level. Okay. You can then just start, like, chipping away from there to go, like, hey, just keep chucking shit at whatever problem needs to be done. And he's trying to figure out, he just needs that lever to, like, move and shift the problem. Give me a lever and a position, and I can move the Earth. And, of course, Sue's tried to figure out, because all of these people are protesting them outside, and be like, listen, this is what happened, explaining her kind of family history, losing their mother and everything like that, and that she will do whatever she can to protect her child, but also do whatever she can to protect the Earth. She'll move heaven and earth. And, of course, this kind of links up with Reed, where he's like, move heaven and earth. So he decides to essentially take what we had been seeing him working on when Johnny brought up the whole kind of suit thing, is this kind of bridge thing. Now, it's pretty much a little kind of teleport that they've been using with eggs. I'm like, check the fucking egg. We don't know if it's goddamn cooked. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you could have teleported an egg, but is it hard-boiled? Is it still intact? So he decides to build these up and shift these over on a large scale to essentially just move the Earth to a place where Galactus wouldn't really be able to find it. Because Galactus is kind of bearing down. The Silver Surfer is getting out of her neutron star hole, and it's like, shit. So this is really cool because this is sciencing the problem. This is the kind of cool stuff that I really like the Fantastic Four for. Because it's not just completely going after and punching the problem, it's understanding the problem and trying to use science to do this. They figure out that they have an energy problem, so they decide to then conserve energy and shut everything down. A really kind of cool aspect that we get is that the Thing can grow a beard that he utilizes pretty much a rock, like a sanding thing, and shaves. And that's how he grows the beard. I never knew that. I was like, I've never seen him do that in the comics. And then I looked up, and there's one part where Ben can turn into his human form once every year because of a formula. And in that part, he's been alive for thousands of years and decided to grow his beard. And it transferred from the human form into the Thing form. Not the same kind of thing that we get. He's in his Thing form and he grows the beard. And Johnny's like, yeah, it'll look fine. As he's still kind of working to get the whole kind of information on the Silver Surfer. So they get everything kind of set up. They're getting ready to rock and roll. And the Silver Surfer comes in and starts destroying all the bridges. Like, oh, fucking shit. But Johnny's able to kind of get to her and fuck with her head to stop and keep the Times Square one. So they cannot shift the Earth. So let's just fucking throw Galactus into the bridge and pretty much try and do a switcheroo with Franklin. This is where we get that Franklin's utilized as bait. Sue doesn't like it, neither do the rest of them, but the only thing is that that is what Galactus is gunning for. So we see him, we gotta force him onto our plane, we get him down, that's why he's walking through and everything. Really well done voice acting for him. We get that Mole Man, Harvey, had helped out and brought people down around the area into Subterranea, which is cool. I liked seeing that going on because Sue was able to kind of talk to him about it. Even though he got brought into the Baxter building and was talking shit to pretty much the rest of them. He's like, alright, cool. Alright, cool. So, let's see. Yeah. Shalabah. Yeah. To save her world, Zen-La. Yeah, already hit that. So we see that they almost kind of get him, but he's like, nah, I see that that baby's not there, and decides to go for the Baxter building. Of course, Herbie's trying to protect Franklin, and we see that Galactus is able to get Franklin, and that's when the Fantastic Four start going after it with their kind of powers and everything. We see Johnny launching Ben, being able to say it's clobbering time. In this universe, pardon me, Ben doesn't really say it, but the cartoon that they made, we also get him kind of talking with Rachel, seeing the kids. He like did this whole kind of thing because that's kind of brought up because people saying it's clobbering time. Also get to see kind of cookies and stuff. It's just kind of little character moments before everything's kind of going to shit. He checks out and wants to see what's going on with Rachel. The kids were like, "Pick up the car, toss the car." It's like, "Rah!" But we then see Johnny kind of launch him and saying it's clobbering time. We see Sue pretty much trying to push him to the bridge, utilizing her powers mainly effectively in Mama Bear mode of like, fuck you, you aren't getting my kid, and just really using her powers to the fullest, to her detriment. We see Rita is able to get to Franklin and get him out, and they kind of get it turned on and put him in there. However, he's getting out. Johnny's like, hey, tell Franklin that Uncle Johnny loved him and stuff, and is like pretty much getting ready to like take him into wherever he's going. Now, I thought they were probably going to go for this because this happens sometimes. This would have like broken up the Fantastic Four. Johnny could have potentially been forced to become Galactus's herald at that point and done some crazy ass shit. However, we've also seen other kind of things, so they're going to be utilized in the next kind of one. So you kind of need the whole team together. Silver Surfer pops up and just like thunder chucks Galactus through the rest of them. So that's pretty much where that kind of goes. And then Sue pretty much expires from exhaustion of doing everything and is dead. And we see Reed's just fucked up. We see that Franklin's crying and everything and is reaching for his mom. And then they put him on Sue, and he utilizes his powers to bring her back, seeing her eyes and everything. It's like, oh shit, magic space baby. Yeah. One of the things is this doesn't really line up completely well with the Thunderbolts at the end, but I found out that they didn't really know, like, how everything was going to end with, like, the Thunderbolts before they were kind of writing this stuff, so that kind of makes sense. And then they're doing a whole kind of celebratory for their 5th year anniversary, having little Franklin. However, they then have to go and answer an emergency, and then seeing Reed, Ben and Johnny trying to do the whole kind of car seat as Sue's just standing there, and then they get through it and then they kind of fly off, and then we start getting our end credit scenes. We see 4 years later that Sue is reading to Franklin, Herbie suggesting Charles Darwin's Origins of Species, but she gets the book that Franklin really wants, but then she gets into there and we see that somebody else is there. Doom. With his mask off. However, we don't see the face. It's like, what the fuck's kind of going on? Like, Sue's like, whoop. And it's like, okay. what's their kind of relationship? I'm like, all right, nice Doom tease. And then the end credit scene is just the pretty much intro to the Fantastic Four cartoon, which was nice and well done. But it doesn't give you much more, because in Thunderbolts, we'd seen the Fantastic Four ship pop out of, like, nowhere. So it's like, okay, that doesn't completely line up here. However, we don't know exactly what they're going to be going on for here. I liked everyone kind of going on with this. Pedro Pascal was able to really kind of hit on Reed's thinking and not being that emotionally connected with the things that kind of go on with people, being like, I can't really cook because it's an art. Him going and having his problem of like going to like the worst and trying to combat the worst. Sue trying to kind of hold the family together and trying to figure out how to get out of these kind of situations and how to utilize her powers as effectively as possible, whether as the Future Foundation or as the Invisible Woman. Ben just trying to be that kind of sensible one to kind of like talk to people and kind of be there when people need them. And Johnny just, he's that kind of positivity that sometimes doesn't really like know what, can't really go through on certain kind of like what you would consider smart kind of things or his area of expertise, but he still is important there of like that brash bravado and kind of hope and optimism. I mean, he's also fire, so that kind of light that kind of helped them. Yeah, he's kind of jokey. Yeah, he's single and he's got like problems where he's kind of too reckless, he's kind of too flippant on things, but then when it comes down to it, I mean, he was going to sacrifice himself for his nephew. That's what he does. He wouldn't. He doesn't have any second thoughts about it. He's just, I'm gonna do this to save my family. So even though people be like, Johnny's a hothead, he's an asshole, and everything like that, it's like, yeah, but when push comes to shove, he's a hero. And I'm really going to be interested to see him interacting with Peter Parker, Spider-Man, because they've got a nice relationship in the comics, the One Ultimate Universe. I kind of want to see that and see how that kind of works out. Yeah, they really hit it. And even Herbie, I'm like, yes, Herbie. Just doing his stuff in the background, trying to be the best kind of like Herbie he can be, and just protect people. It just felt awesome when he was trying to protect Franklin and everything. Franklin will be interesting to see how he kind of works out, because we had seen him just as a baby, so people had to like deal with him, and then him utilizing his powers to bring his mother back. And then seeing him as a little boy with Doom, it's like, okay. And Doom's relationship is very, I want that kind of exploration. I do think that I think it's telling that they went with Galactus first, because Galactus is an important kind of one for the Fantastic Four. But I also think that they're setting up Doom as not just the Fantastic Four, but the overarching villain that they need to kind of tie this multiversal saga together. Doom, Kang, I think, would have been a pretty good arching level Avengers one. And I think we'll get that at some point. But Doom, whenever you're talking about, big kind of threats for the Marvel Comics universe, Doom really ranks up there, duking it out with Thanos. So I think, I know that there weren't the rights there that were the big kind of issue, but I think that they should have went with Doom as the second phase villain anyway. And then when they needed the reboot for casting decisions and stuff, to go with that for Kang on the third kind of phase thing that they were going. Even though I'm saying phases, I consider the Infinity Saga and then this multiverse saga. And then I think that this should have been a different kind of saga, calling it out, maybe setting up the multiverse, and then having the multiverse and the incursions and everything go for the third saga. But I like what's kind of going on here. I like that we got the tease for Doom, and I can't wait to see what kind of goes on with that, especially what Robert Downey Jr. is going to be doing with Doom, because you don't just want, it's Evil Tony. Evil Tony is different than Dr. Doom. There might be some similarities in effect, but Doom is a very different beast and a very different animal. He fucking has it out his ass for people calling Reed Richards the smartest man in the world. It is his bug like ain't nobody's business. And it'll be very interesting to see if they ever take his mask off, what they kind of go with. Because Doom has a scarred visage. However, we don't know how severe it is. In some instances, people go like his face is completely and utterly mangled. In some, it is the slightest, tiniest little thing that just gets in Doom's crawl. It's like, oh, can you see it? No, Lord Doom. You lie. And it's just the littlest thing and that's the pettiness of Doom. He does great and terrible things, but he could be a true hero if he just got out of his own way. That needs to be the big thing. Tony, evil Tony, was able to kind of get out of his own way, especially seeing with the snap and everything. He's like, yep. So, I really like this one. I think that this is like, they nailed the Fantastic Four for me, and I hope that this works out well enough that they continue this franchise going forward, because this showed off why I like the Fantastic Four, and I enjoyed it. If you didn't, I totally get that. If you're a Fantastic Four fan, and this didn't hit it for you, I totally get that. If this didn't make you a Fantastic Four fan, I get that as well. There's a lot of ones where I think that we need to get into the kind of effect of that. Yes, that Marvel needs to understand is that you should be able to set up certain key characters that people like and certain kind of ones that they don't like, and if they want to engage with them, engage with them. If they don't force them to get fucked over for it. Like, give them enough of what is going on. It's kind of like how the comics work. I don't read everything, but I read the ones that I like, and if an event kind of pops up or whatnot, I'm able to read it and kind of get an idea of where those characters are and what their whole kind of role is in the event. So that way, if people want to go see the Avengers, and they have characters that they're not that really, they weren't that really interested in, they still know what's kind of going on. And that could potentially lead them to then go back and check out those movies if that interested them. I don't know. I know it's a different kind of medium, but it still should be able to utilize similar kind of strategies. Now, granted, the comics don't always do these kind of things and kind of do their own kind of detriment because they haven't learned these lessons well, or they need to learn them again. But I like this, and if you kind of want to check it out, it's a little bit of a different superhero movie. Not saying that it'll completely be your cup of tea, but I really liked it. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.